Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence. Welcome back to another video. I really hope that this video finds you well. Thank you so much for joining me today. And in today's episode, we're going to be taking a closer look at what I think is the most recent release by the company Calvin Klein. Of course, they do this every year, and this is a summer flanker of the ever so popular CK1, and this is called CK1 Summer 2020. So make sure to stay tuned. So of course, this is something that the House of Calvin Klein does every single year. I've actually owned some of their previous summer iterations, and some were hits, some were misses. I know there was one that had a bit of like a margarita feel to it, and I actually quite liked that one. And fortunately, I haven't worn too much of that. So if I ever wanted to go back, revisit and sort of respray it, I still have enough liquid in that bottle, and thankfully I've been storing it properly and everything, so it hasn't turned on me. But this is the most recent iteration, and this is one that is quite orange heavy, at least if you're looking at the note breakdown and how some people are assessing the smell or the concentration of each note on an online fragrance forum. So there's ginger, there's sandalwood, there's clary sage if I'm not mistaken. So it seems to be a rather balanced composition with a touch of sea salt on top as well. And so a lot of it kind of left me wondering if this was going to smell similar to other iterations of CK1 Summer, and also how close is this going to actually smell to CK1, just because the classic fragrance is one that a lot of people will enjoy. I think it's relatively safe and inoffensive, but it is one that can come across to some smelling a bit dated, just because it's one that so many people associate with the 90s. And so here we are a few decades later, you kind of want to branch out and try something different. So I think the summer flankers are able to do that. They're able to provide people with a novel take on an existing classic, but also doing it in such a way where it kind of feels like its own fragrance. You know, it doesn't feel like it's a slight iteration of an original fragrance, but rather something completely new. And a lot of times they have ventured in a little bit more of like a different territory from what I was expecting from Calvin Klein, especially in fragrances like Reveal. I think Reveal was quite different from other fragrances that I've tried from the company, and I was rather impressed, if I can be honest with you. But with this particular fragrance, I know it seems like a summer fragrance when you're looking at the note breakdown. Let's see how these notes come together, and let's see what the overall smell of this fragrance is like. But let's start things off with the presentation. So the box for this one is rather simple. As I'm sure you know, when you buy a CK1 fragrance, it actually comes with a screw-on cap that looks just like that. It's actually inside the box. You can hear it rattling. And then on the back, something different that they did is they actually included a bunch of stickers, just in case you have a little kid at home, I guess. I'm just teasing. But my daughter loves these, so I'll probably end up giving it to her. And that's just sort of what it looks like. In terms of the bottle, it has this light bluish green color on the bottle. I think it looks really nice. You know, they always fit in the hand very comfortably as well. And I like that sort of two-tone graphic on the CK there. On the bottom is where you'll be able to locate your serial number if you're looking to authenticate your purchase. My batch is 9319. And the distribution on the atomizer is nice and wide. Let's continue with the smell. So as soon as this fragrance opens up, the first thing you're going to get is that citrus note. And so a lot of people online who are voting it as one of the more concentrated notes in this fragrance, they're absolutely right. I can validate that. And although mandarin orange is listed as a note, I seem to be getting something lemony in the opening. And I think that's because I'm associating it with a lot of other fragrances that contain the note of lemon that have this sort of creamy, slightly balmy, lemony profile to them. And I know one of them, it's actually a really funny scent. It's a Fantastic Wild Citrus for Boys by Benetton. And so it's a fragrance that was marketed towards young kids. It's one that I owned later on in life just because the perfumer is Anique Minardo, so that piqued my interest. But this fragrance in particular actually does remind me a little bit of that. And that fragrance by Benetton is very lemon heavy, which is what inclines me to say that this one has a lot of lemon in the opening from what I'm able to pick up. But I can also sense how that mandarin orange is in there. Now, when I was looking at the note breakdown and I was looking at some of the other comparisons that were made, I can see why certain people were comparing this to Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue for women. It kind of has that profile going on in there, but I would say the similarities are only about 30 or 40%. I think this one does sort of take things, it does take things in its own direction, and I really like the uniqueness that is in this fragrance while not doing anything that's earth-shattering or groundbreaking or anything like that. I recently recorded a video in which I mentioned how Moschino's Toy Boy was like the most unique fragrance that came out in 2019, and I would never put this anywhere near that in terms of actually pushing the envelope, doing something that's new and different and daring. I think this one is very sort of basic, but I don't mean that in a negative way. I do think it's rather pleasant. I remember leaving the mall when I purchased this one some time ago, and my wife actually smelled it on me and she says, wow, that one I actually like. And so it's very hard to please her. There's only a few fragrances out there that she is actually taken, you know, positively, but this is one that definitely did suit her needs. And this is one that I do see myself wearing, especially now that it's getting a little bit hotter. This is a really good fragrance to put on when you get out of the shower and you just want to smell clean. You don't want to reach for something super interesting or dark or deep or complex or anything like that. And in terms of it smelling like CK1, it doesn't. I know it still has a little bit of that clean DNA in here, but if you do a side-by-side, you know, CK1 just smells very clean and soapy. And a lot of people have also compared it to Azzaro Chrome. This one is quite different in its presence of the clary sage and the citrus, and it does have a little bit of an aromatic feel. I saw that amber is also listed as a note in this one. There's nothing sweet or resinous or dense about this fragrance. It's rather lighthearted, and it's one that I think is going to be very volatile in the way that it performs on skin. I don't think it's one that's going to linger for a very long time. And sure enough, for the past few days that I have been spending wearing this one, it doesn't really last a long time. You're gonna get 5 hours, which to some people might actually be pretty good. If you're looking for longevity beasts, this is not necessarily the fragrance to do that for you. But I do think that it's a really pleasant citrus-based fragrance that has orange listed in the note breakdown, but you're also gonna smell lemon. You're gonna get a little bit of an aromatic profile to it, and then it has this creamy appeal to it, and I just think it's very pleasant. It's not groundbreaking by any means. If you're looking for a compliment monster, I would say go ahead and check out Acqua di Gio Profondo, or maybe check out Acqua di Gio Profumo, or maybe even check out Invictus Aqua by Paco Rabanne. Those are all fragrances that have proven themselves to do quite well in terms of getting compliments. This one, on the other hand, you can potentially skip over. But if you're a fan of the Calvin Klein house and you want to see what they've done now, definitely check this one out. I think you might be pleasantly surprised by it. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, we have the uniqueness in the overall smell. And while I can't necessarily say that this fragrance smells 100% like something else that I've smelled, I don't think it's all that unique either. When you smell it, it's just gonna smell very fresh and creamy and citrusy and lemony and orangey. There's nothing about it that necessarily smells like a totally new fragrance, new scent profile that one hasn't discovered yet. It's gonna hit familiar ground, but nonetheless, I do think it's a very pleasant scent, and the overall smell is one that is very likable and perfectly unisex as well. In terms of the longevity, I think I got about 5 hours from this one. It didn't really radiate off the skin too loudly. Projection on this one was okay for the first hour to hour and a half, and then it sat really close to the skin at that 3 to 3.5 hour mark. And for the last hour, like, you have to smell yourself in your shirt in order to actually be able to pick up on the fact that you're wearing it or bring your skin right up to your nose. So this one didn't really project too loudly, except for that very opening when you first apply it. In terms of the versatility, I do think it's a versatile fragrance. I think this one can be pulled off in the hotter weather though, and so it's probably not one that I would wear in the wintertime, unless you reference something that I said earlier on in this review where I said I'd like to wear it as soon as I get out of the shower. And so if you want to enhance or prolong that feeling of smelling clean and being clean, I think this is the type of fragrance that'll do that for you. But if you're looking for something to wear outdoors, I wouldn't wear this one in the dead of winter. I do find it to be perfectly unisex. I think there's something about it that comes across rather youthful, but I think anybody of any age can wear it. These are just recommendations, of course, and it comes across very, very casual. So if you're looking for a fragrance that has a very citrus heavy opening that can be worn in a formal occasion, I would recommend something like Terre d'Hermès by Hermès, or maybe another Hermès fragrance, part of the Un Jardin line, but not really this one. This one really comes across more casual than anything else. This is, you know, going to the beach, you know, shorts, flip-flops, or, you know, being on a cruise ship or something like that. That's the kind of vibe that this one gives off to me, not necessarily attending a wedding or anything like that. And then in terms of the presentation, I guess the stickers on the back are quite cool. My daughter enjoys stickers, so I might give them to her for her to play around with them. But I do like the color on it. I think it's kind of successful in conveying the types of seasons that the fragrance is going to be appropriate in. Not like we needed that color disparity because we have summer written right on the bottle. But my final verdict for this is it's an okay fragrance. I don't think it's a bad fragrance, but I don't think it's an excellent fragrance either. The House of Calvin Klein has made some really interesting fragrances in the past. They're actually the first company that I ever owned a fragrance from, and that was CKB, which I still own to this day. It's very sentimental and poignant for me. And of course, along the way, we've had a lot of really interesting releases from Calvin Klein, Reveal being one of them, which is kind of hard to get now. But if you are a fan of CK1 and you're into their summer flankers and you want to see what they did this summer, definitely check it out. I hope it's of interest to you, and I hope you end up liking it and wearing it in good health. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. That was my review of CK1 Summer 2020 by Calvin Klein. If you own or have tried this fragrance, I would love it if you could start a discussion, leave a comment down below. Also, if you took something of value from this video, I would love it if you could support this channel by subscribing to it. All you need to do is click that red button in the corner, and this way, whenever I do upload future fragrance-related content, it'll get delivered straight to your feed. You never need to worry about missing any of my future uploads, and of course, that includes reviews just like this, but also top 10 videos, giveaways, unboxings, special guests, interviews, and a whole lot more. Thanks again for watching. I love you all. We'll see you next time.